This program is sponsored in part by the National Catholic Society of Foresters. Hello again and welcome to Looking at Social Justice. I'm Jim Grant, your host, and it's my privilege each week to have a guest talk to us about a social justice issue. Well, in 2015, in June, Pope Francis wrote an encyclical called Laudato Si on caring for our common home. In June of 2019, the California Conference of Bishops wanted to commemorate that and wrote a letter called God Calls Us All to Care for Our Common Home. So I thought we should at least have another program on looking at social justice, looking at the environment, looking at our common home, looking at what it is that the earth still has and what we can do to preserve it. So our guest today is Destiny Rodriguez, who's working very, very much for the last 10 years in efforts that are environmental, climate related, energy efficiency related, and just helping us in the Valley to live out a better life. Destiny, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you have such a passion for the environment and caring for God's world.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here. So I've been involved with nonprofit work for about 10 years, over 10 years now. And what attracted me to nonprofit work was volunteerism. I volunteered a lot in my high school years, organized beautification projects, recycling days, and that led me to some internships that I took in college. And I just realized at a young age that we have a lot of problems here in the Central Valley, and there are organizations out there trying to make a difference, and I wanted to be part of that difference. And so I decided to start working for National Parks Conservation Association, which I did right out of college. And I've worked for other organizations such as San Joaquin Parkway River Conservation Trust, as well as the Coalition for Clean Air, Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, and more recently the Central California Asthma Collaborative, which has led me now to the Climate Center.
So at the Climate Center, you are the Regional Community Relations Person. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this wonderful Climate Center? I will admit, knew nothing before talking to you. Then I went to that website, then I went to learn more. It is amazing what the group does and what you do. Introduce us to the Climate Center.
Sure. So the Climate Center is a 501c3 nonprofit. They've been around for about 20 years now. The headquarters is based in Santa Rosa, but I work and live here in the Central Valley. And the Climate Center, what their mission is they're trying to work with youth and community and businesses and local elected leaders to identify solutions for the climate crisis. And one of those solutions is greenhouse gas reductions, which is something that we primarily focus on through a few different models.
Now about the community choice energy, that is where evidently the Climate Center has focused its collaborative, its connection, its partnering. Tell us about that.
Sure.
Because there's an image that we need to get of what a choice could be, how that would influence what we do, and how we cooperate with the offer that's out there that we may not even be aware of.
Right. So back in 2005, our organization identified community choice energy as a very promising model that can reduce greenhouse gas emissions while also providing a revenue stream for local communities using renewable clean energy. So essentially what community choice energy is an alternative to the investor-owned utility that we know as PG&E in this area. And why this is important is because Historically, we've never had a choice of who our energy provider is. We've never had a choice of where our energy comes from, how it's generated. These things have all been decided for us through the investor-owned utilities. But with community choice energy, that decision comes to the community, where the community can become very involved with the decision making, as well as the local elected leaders. So on the screen right now, there's a picture of what community choice energy looks like. And community choice energy essentially would be solely responsible for buying and building the electricity supply, so generation of local energy sources and purchasing agreements. So that is really what community choice energy does. It's still a partnership with the investor-owned utilities. So PG&E would still be delivering your energy, maintaining your lines, billing your bill every month, and the benefits come to the community through affordable rates, local control, and of course cleaner energy, which is something that is becoming a movement of sorts. Renewable energy is the future, and we need to start thinking in these terms of sustainability.
Some of the issues that are like in this concept of community choice is exactly that word choice. We all feel constrained, I think, especially in California, with what is our destiny, our destiny with PG&E, because we'd like to be like just not connected. We'd like something as an alternative. So we still have to do something with PG&E, but at least it's not a full servanthood to them.
Yes.
How is the major difference best understood, Destiny?
So I would say the major difference is it offers friendly competition, where there was no friendly competition with PG&E or any of the investor-owned utilities here in our state. With having an alternative energy provider, this allows the community to become more involved with the decision-making process. And how that works is it's governed in a few different ways. One of the ways it can be governed is single jurisdiction, meaning the city council, the mayor, would have control over the electricity provider. So the city almost sets the rates, very similar to water.
Oh my.
Yes.
So we do have a certain experience
Yes.
to model on.
Definitely, yes. So it's not a huge lift. It sounds very nebulous in the idea, but it's actually very simple once you get this model started. And there are several other cities and counties within the state and even outside the state that are already using this type of model. One of the other governing models besides single jurisdiction is joint powers authority. So a joint powers authority can exist between the county and the cities. So this is my favorite model because this allows for the unincorporated areas to also be included in the equation.
That is so good you mentioned that, because when we ever have meetings with Leadership Council, especially, this idea of the unincorporated communities of the valley.
Yes.
They are just left bereft of so much support that some established cities and towns are receiving just because. But the unincorporated are just left abandoned. So this partnership, this choice would include all of those little unincorporated communities.
It has the opportunity to do so. So right now the city is starting to explore the idea of community choice energy. It's a relatively new concept for this area, but community choice energy has been going on for about 10 years now in our state. And in the Central Valley, it does take time for things to get going, but in the last year or so, I would like to say that there's been a lot of engagement and interest at the city level.
One item we wanted to look at is like the benefits that are buried in the possibility
Yes.
of this community choice, that they need to be explored. So, what might be some of the principles you want to open up for us about that question? These
Sure.
benefits that are possible.
So I'm so glad that you talked about benefits. There are so many benefits to community choice energy. One of the benefits is having local control. Where it is right now is if you're having an issue with your energy bills, or you're having an issue with maybe some of the rate increases that have been happening just recently, you would have to drive to Sacramento or San Francisco and possibly go to a PG&E public hearing to address your concerns. Or maybe even go to the Public Utilities Commission and address your concerns there. With community choice energy, you can literally just go to the city and have a conversation with your local elected leaders, rather than having to make a drive or be on the phone for maybe 2 hours and talk to a representative. This allows local access to your energy provider, because your energy provider would be your city.
This is so interesting because Peggy and I are in the exact situation right now of seeing our rates go up exactly now, and we're looking at what are we going to do. So we're looking at solar, but we're also saying, why is PG&E raising the rates so much?
Yeah.
So you would say this localization
Yes.
is really one big payback. It becomes where you live,
Yes.
not 3 hours north.
Exactly. It offers the opportunity for the consumer, the customer, to have a straightforward conversation about energy rate increases, about where generation sources are for your energy. So I think that's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
One of the other benefits that people tend to gravitate to is the revenue streams. So right now, when you pay your bill every month, those dollars leave our local economy. Poof,
Oh, yeah,
gone.
they're gone.
With community choice energy, those local dollars stay local. So how that works is, because the city would be essentially your energy provider, the bills that you would normally pay to PG&E, the revenue stream takes a U-turn, comes back into city control. So those revenues can be used, and are being used at other community choice energy agencies for community tailored programs. So this revenue can be used for revitalization projects, rebate programs for EV, infrastructure for EV. Basically, it gives the opportunity of creating new programs under this revenue stream.
Tell us more about that EV, that electron volt. What? It's going to be so much cleaner.
Yes.
It'll be so much more efficient. But tell us more about that EV principle that people probably would say, oh, so it's like my car, I could have it EV instead of having that internal combustion engine I've got.
Right. So another benefit of community choice energy is it's helping us to lessen our dependency on fossil fuels and shift our energy and our focus to renewable. And EVs are the way of the future. California is going through a massive transition right now. Electrification of transportation is on the rise right now. And soon EVs are going to be seen more on the road, and this is a good thing. I know this transition is kind of new and scary for a lot of people, but ultimately it's going to be great for the community. And how it does this is because if you have more electric vehicles on the road, you're going to have less emissions on the road.
Yeah.
So what that equals is better air quality. So having local air quality benefits is definitely something that community choice energy is bringing to the table through electrification of vehicles.
you know, it makes sense that your track record the last 10 years, you've been in different places,
Yeah.
but they are all on this idea of air quality. So working with Kevin Hamilton and being over with the Asthma Coalition, it just means then you'd say, okay, that's one agency, but we could institutionalize the way we are dealing with fossil fuel less use by this effort of a community
Definitely.
buy-in and throwing it to the city. Now here's where we want to go now. We know we're not doing it yet, so we'll
Yes.
leave that for the next question. But now let's look at a map. Draw us a map in our minds of that this is actually happening. 10 million Californians
Yes.
are already benefiting. That's 1 out of 4 of us, right?
Yes.
Tell us where this is happening so we can get a mental picture.
So, community choice energy, as I said before, this has been going on for about 10 years now in the state of California. And it's not just limited to the state of California. There are 8 other states in our nation that are already implementing community choice energy. California happens to have the most community choice energy agencies of all the states nationally. So, like you said, there are over 10 million customers in community choice energy in our state alone. That equates to over 150, I believe it's 158 cities that are currently using community choice energy as a model and a means of alternative energy. And all of these customers are receiving the benefits of community choice energy. Half the state is already doing this. The half that's not is our Central Valley, where I feel personally we have the most need for a model like this.
It is sad to see, for those that can, the Central Valley, which would be prime terrain for such an effort. Our diocese, the 8 counties, we don't have it. And it's really sad. It's typical, though. It's not like, how did that ever happen that the Bay Area, they're all into this? And why is it that places where there is more wealth and more money, that there is an investment, but that communities that need the money to stay where it is will just send it away to Sacramento? So let's admit we have a major problem with our own Central Valley, but there is a second, you might say, image or map in our mind. And do you want to address that one as well?
Sure. So the community choice energy, like you said, this is happening mostly in Bay Area, up north, down south, and then we have the pocket of the Central Valley where it's not happening. But I do want to say this is that Hanford is actually the only city in the valley that has already put a declaration to pursue community choice energy.
Good.
And they're set to be operational as soon as January of next year. Whether or not they're going to be operational, that remains to be seen, but they have the opportunity to be the first city in the entire Central Valley to implement community choice energy, which is amazing.
Well, that is amazing to think, because I must admit, when we drive through Hanford, you would say,
right,
even with the windows closed, I mean, it should be better than that.
It should. And so to kind of go into the other aspect of what you were talking about, renewable energy, we are a prime area for renewable energy. We have a plethora of solar, especially in the summertime. Even right now, it's unseasonably hot for October. And the Bay Area and the other community choice energy agencies are aware of this. And I'm sure, you know, when people go up to the Bay Area, it's not hot and sunny like it is here in the valley. It's usually foggy and cold and windy and, you know, pleasant. So one of the things that community choice energy agencies that are currently doing right now is they're contracting solar farms here in the Central Valley. So I have mixed feelings about that. So, and I'll explain that. So I love the idea of contracting and creating renewable energy sources here in the valley. I think that's great because it does equate to some local jobs and it does equate to more renewable energy, which is great. However, the communities where these solar farms are being built are not receiving any of the cost benefits, any of the revenue stream, any of the stabilization of their energy rates. All of those benefits are going to the community choice energy agencies that are outside the area. And they are using the solar that we have here because unfortunately in the Bay Area, they just don't get the same amount of sun as we do here in the Central Valley. So it doesn't make sense why here in the Valley, we're not taking advantage of these solar farms and just implementing our own community choice energy agencies so that we can get these cost benefits, the revenue streams, the air quality benefits, all of the benefits that I've been talking about. Because like you said, we're in need of these types of things and these types of solutions.
Now, one thing we really need in the Valley, and everyone agrees to this, is better employment, better jobs, and I'm thinking you're going to say, I think we've got a winner here. So tell us about the uptick there would be, even in the economy, if the city just went in this direction.
So it would definitely help with job creation. So right now, as it stands, community choice energy agencies have created over 4,000 jobs just across the state through these models. And where these jobs are being created is usually in renewable energy, so green jobs. It's definitely encouraging the growth of green jobs through these models. And if the city of Fresno were to decide that this is something they want to do, this could open the doors for creating generation sources here locally, or even building on existing solar farms that are already been created. And there's been a lot of talk of potentially creating our own community solar type of system. There's been talk about creating a generation source of kind, maybe through wind. These are things that would not be possible without community choice energy. And so with community choice energy agencies, they are already leading the way to 100% renewable energy. In most of the communities that they're serving, they're already at 100% renewable in the mix of energy that they have. So it's very exciting.
It is, and what I want you to do, if you could right now, Destiny, is tell us how people can be in touch with you and where they might go to the website to see much more about exactly what we've been talking about.
So if you're listening to me right now and the things that I'm telling you are things that you're like, yes, this is exactly what we need for our community, you can reach me via email. My email is destiny, DESTINY, at theclimatecenter.org. And you can also find more information on our website, which is cleanpowerexchange.org.
Awesome. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of our city. And what we've got with our city is, we've got certain council members that we would find probably open to this.
Yes.
And we've got certain people that are just not going to want to do this for any number of reasons. We don't want to name names, except we'll say Luis Chavez is good.
Yes.
You had a meeting with him.
Yes.
Why don't we talk about any connections that you've been able to make with the city and where that's gone for you, because you have definitely put yourself connecting with people that need to be championing our effort, because it's not going to happen only with goodwill and a podcast.
Right.
It's going to take some effort. So what do we have? Who's helping us on this? Who's helping you?
So right now, Councilmember Chavez has been the most vocal and the most supportive of community choice energy having a community choice energy agency here in the city of Fresno, and other council members have shown support. And I think the reason Councilmember Chavez has been very, very supportive is because he sees the potential of creating an economic boom locally. He sees the potential of creating jobs here locally, which is something that we need. And also he sees the benefits that this could bring local businesses, because as I'm sure you're aware, local businesses, it's hard for them to maintain here in the Central Valley, and with the energy increases, rental increases, it makes it hard for a mom and pop shop to survive here. So I believe the council member sees the benefits and the potential benefits this could bring, and I believe this is why he's been so vocal and in support for community choice energy. And not to say that the other council members aren't. I have not received any negative responses from any of the council members, which is great. Maybe some not as receptive as others, but I believe that they all see that this is something that is a potential viable solution for our city.
Speaking of our city, you did make a presentation at the City Council. So tell us how that went, and also in the last minute, tell us how we as citizens can get involved and join you, Destiny, in this effort.
Great. So we, as in the Climate Center, had an informational study session at the City of Fresno, and it was well received by the City Council members. They are genuinely interested in seeing what the potential this could bring the city. So as I'm speaking right now, there is money being allocated to do a technical study for this area. And the technical study, what that will bring is all the load data, what the revenue streams is going to look like, what the costs, startup costs are going to look like, and what the cost savings are going to look like for the customers here, the residents here. So that's currently being underway. Good. When that technical study starts to happen, I will definitely let community know, and I will be out and about letting people know that this is happening. But what people can do right now to make sure that this does happen is talk to your council member, talk to your city representative, let them know that this is something that you want to see happen. Because even if the technical study comes back, that's still not a commitment that the city is going to move forward with it. So we need your help and your voices to get this model up and running.
Well, I want to thank you for your voice, Destiny, for being so able to share in these 30 minutes what is your work, why you're there, and what we can do to join you in this effort. Thank you very much. We will be having you back when we have another part of this to unravel for our viewers and our listeners. Thank you, Destiny.
Thank you, Jim.